Welcome to the Wake Up Kansas Morning Newscast. I'm your host, Vanessa.
And I'm Sammi. Today we have planned to interview two of Kansas's famous makers, President James Buchanan and Senator Stephen A. Douglas. But first, we'll start off with sports.
Yes, in Sports Week last night, the two opposing teams, the Free Soil Party and the pro-slavery parties, were at it again.
Indeed they were. It is a constant battle between the two teams. It is like it never ends. The Free Soil Party is gaining most of its support from the northern anti-slavery men, but the South has its money on the pro-slavery team. We will check back later on the results of the game when it is over.
Meanwhile, it was time for the interview with Senator Stephen A. Douglas and President James Buchanan. Welcome, Senator Douglas and President Buchanan. Thank you so much for coming today. First, I'd like to start by talking about the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which is actually delivered by you, Senator Douglas. What did this act do for America?
The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 split the territory of Nebraska into two parts, Kansas and Nebraska. Although it ran into problems with the Missouri Compromise and the compromise had to be repealed, the previous president, Franklin Pierce, was in support of the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
Senator Douglas, what made you create this act?
I delivered the Kansas-Nebraska Act because I wanted to break the north-south deadlock over westward expansion and create a line of American settlements across America.
And what was unique about the act's approach towards slavery?
As you probably remember, the Missouri Compromise of 1820 forbade slavery in Nebraska territory because it was north of the 3630 line. However, I needed the support of the South to get the act passed, so the Kansas-Nebraska Act let their slavery status be decided by popular sovereignty.
I heard that you encountered opposition from the North. Could you elaborate more on that?
Gladly. The die-hard abolitionists in the Congress were furious at the breach in the Missouri Compromise, but I was able to convince them to pass the bill with the support of the Southerners.
Senator Douglas, we've heard many rumors about why you incorporated the issue of slavery. Some say that you simply needed the South's support to get the bill passed, while others say that you were angling for the presidency. What's the truth?
If I hadn't championed the bill, someone else would have. I've said so before, but I will repeat it again. I had no interest in whether Kansas and Nebraska would become slave states or not.
This was not the case in the North. They called you many things, including, if you pardon me, a Judas or a traitor. Did you realize how much the act would upset the North?
Not to that extent, no. I knew that it would create a lot of controversy, but I suppose I underestimated its proportions. Luckily, I still had the support of the Democratic Party, especially in Illinois.
Thank you, Senator Douglas. This ends our discourse on the Kansas-Missouri Act. And now for a commercial break.
The Kansas Civil War has devastated the state since its eruption in 1856, causing millions of dollars worth of property damage, paralyzing agriculture in many areas of Kansas, and costing scores of lives. The toll it has taken is immense. For just a few cents, you can help these people. Together we can rebuild homes, plant new crops, and provide comfort for the families who have lost loved ones in this battle. Please, just put aside the issue of slavery for now and focus on helping your family and friends in Kansas. Donate today. Please telegraph us at 1-800-RELIEF or send a letter to us at kansasrelieffund@kansas.com. Thank you.
And we're back. Next we will be talking about the Lecompton Constitution. Mr. President, sir, would you please describe the Constitution for us?
Certainly. The Constitution was the second of four proposed constitutions for the state of Kansas. It allowed Kansas to be admitted into the Union as a slave state and protected rights of slaveholders. In addition, it excluded free blacks. I fully supported the extension of slavery into the new territory.
What options did the citizens have for voting?
The citizens were only allowed to vote for the Constitution one way or the other, with slavery or without slavery, and could not vote against the Constitution itself.
And what were the results of the election?
The first vote resulted in more appeal for slavery because Free Soilers boycotted the vote, but the second vote called for by Senator Douglas convinced Free Soilers to show up, and this resulted in opposition of the slave state. Sadly, after all of my hard work to get Congress to approve of it, the House of Representatives would not give in the final election. So, when Kansas entered the Union in early 1861, it did so as a free state.
How did the intense debate over the Constitution affect the Democratic Party?
The party, once a powerful cross-sectional alliance, soon began to disintegrate for the first time ever into two separate sections, pro-slavery and anti-slavery.
It was nice talking to you, Mr. President. This has just wrapped up our interview with President Buchanan and Senator Douglas. Thank you so much for coming. Moving on, we will have the sports results now.
Yes, we do. It seems to be a tie. Over the course of the last night, a small group of Free Soilers were able to defeat 5 Southern men. but the South was able to quickly retaliate with a quick beating of Northern morals by Brooks.
Wow, looks like this is one close competition. There's going to be a tiebreaker game in the upcoming months, which is the Civil War in Kansas in 1856. So we will get back to you on Kansas sports soon.
I've just received word on some incoming news. We're just informed that John Brown has tried to invade the South earlier today. His plan was to sneak into the South with a few followers, call upon the slaves to rise and give them weapons. John Brown had high hopes that he would help establish a black free state as a sanctuary.
Today, Brown successfully seized the federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry, but was sentenced to death when none of his supporters failed to show. May he live on as a martyr to abolition.
Well, it was a crazy ending to this broadcast. With the death of Brown, formation of Kansas, repealing the Missouri Compromise, issues on slavery, these events are sure to go down in history. That's all for tonight. Have a good night.
Have a good night. The events in Kansas evoke many emotions regarding the topic of slavery. In the years to come, the Republican Party was formed, which defended the moral rights of abolishing slavery. This group of Republicans formed mainly in the Midwest. Most of the Republicans were opposers of the Kansas-Nebraska Act and included individuals from many political parties, including the Whigs and even some Democrats. Southerners strongly disliked the Republican Party and did not believe in their opinions.